It is another sunny day at Giants practice. Welcome to an inside look at Giants training camp presented by Quest Diagnostics. Humidity over 70% once again. That means a lineman like Sean O'Hara loves that. I'm Paul Dottino, and Sean, always good to see you again. Another great day for the Giants as they are now in full pads once again for today's session.
Yeah, Paul, another steamy one right now. The humidity level is high, which, as you mentioned, for old linemen, the sweat factor very high today. Obviously, they're in full pads today after that scrimmage they had a couple of days ago. These are always some of the toughest practices in camp. After you've cranked up the intensity level in a scrimmage, try to simulate a preseason game, to come back now a couple of days later, put the pads back on. These are the dog days of camp right now, and you kind of have to push through mentally and physically.
Well, is that more of a mental and emotional factor or a physical factor where you just have to kind of get the oil and the grease on the wheels going again?
Well, it's your first real big practice after that, so I think the adrenaline gets going when you have a scrimmage, and there's a little bit of a plateau afterwards. So you have to mentally charge yourself up. This is the type of day where you walk around and say, hey, be a pro. If you need to take some pills today, they're false enthusiasm pills. Take 2 if you need them, but get that energy up, get yourself going, and start feeding off each other. This is the day where the leaders and the veterans on the team have to step up, set the pace, set the tempo, and get everybody locked in mentally.
Well, today, the vote of the fans on social media said they wanted us to focus on the linebackers. So indeed, we will start with inside linebacker Blake Martinez. Kevin Shearer, the Giants inside linebackers coach, told the media earlier today that Martinez is doing a very good job of awareness and situational football and understanding where all of his teammates have to be on every play.
Yeah, awareness is a big part of it. And this drill right here, Paul, they're not just standing under this to try to get shade, as you saw Blake Martinez. This is a shoot right here, right? And that's not just trying to get out of the sun. You want to keep your pad level low as a linebacker. And what you're watching the linebacker coach show him, hey, shock. You see him lock his arms out? It's crease separation. So there's awareness, there's a play. Now I'm going to shock that sled, and I want to extend it. I'm extending my arm so I get rid of that blocker and then make the tackle. All right, here we go. Watch the lateral move. There's the shock. Now I'm making the tackle, and the tackle's low. You see how the ball coming low? So that's to wrap up low to high. You'll notice on that sled, it's not a big shield, not a big pad. It looks like there's 2 handles on it. That's teaching you to keep your hands tight right there. There you see Jabril Peppers working in with the linebackers, interestingly. All right, you'll see him down at the linebacker box. Yeah, he's listed as a safety. There's Devontae Downs, number 52. He's been getting a lot of reps with the ones. He's really been coming on strong, Paul.
So the ball is supposed to mimic the guy that you need to tackle, although
yes.
I don't see a lot of contact there. I think that might even be Jesse Armstead holding the ball, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's Jesse putting in some work. If anybody knows about proper tackling form and finishing through the tackle, it's Jesse. So now they're going to work the other side. They're flipping it over. So that was going to the right, going to the left. Linebacker's always about, you mentioned awareness, but it's about being able to play in space. So here's Blake Martinez. You're going to start right, and now you're going to react back to the left. Shock the sled, get separation. All right, then get your hands ready for the tackle. So it's shock and shed. Get rid of the blocker. Now get your hands ready to make the tackle.
Now, some people out there might say, well, why aren't the linebackers in a more upright position? Why are they bending down? What is the purpose of the screen?
It's all about staying low. If you're standing straight up, then you're not going to be able to shock and separate from that lineman or fullback or tight end. So you got to create pad level. This is also, start of practice. So you're kind of loosening up, but football is a game of leverage. Low man always wins, and that's what the linebackers are working on right now. I think a lot of times linebackers too, in an attempt to try to see where the ball carrier is, sometimes you can raise up because you're trying to see over the line. This is teaching you to stay low, read your keys, read what the line is doing, their footwork, and find the flow.
I think it's really hard for the linebackers during these kinds of training camps because, let's face it, some of their best plays, some of their splash plays, if you will, are done with big hits. And there's not a lot of big hitting going on during a training camp like this. There are some thud practices, and then, of course, the scrimmages, but they don't really get a chance to necessarily put their best foot forward all the time.
Well, no, this is a build-up for it. You work on you break it down. It's like a golf swing, Paulie, right? You got to work on the back swing. You got to work on following through, mechanics, all those things, and then you go out and play. I think when you look at drills like that, you're doing it not at full speed, but you're doing it so that it just becomes involuntary. It's reactionary. You're not even thinking about it. And to me, what was interesting was we saw a couple of safeties mixed in there with the linebackers. So you saw Xavier McKinney, number 29 in there, Jabril Peppers. And for those guys, that just shows you the role that they're playing defensively. They're going to be up at the line of scrimmage. They're going to be in the box, having to shed blockers, having to make a tackle. Defense is probably one of the toughest things to do in football. Obviously playing quarterback is tough, but defensively you're constantly fighting off blockers, dodging bodies, stepping over people. Oh, and then you also have to take the ball carrier down. So a drill like that is very paramount to their success.
One of the instinctive talents that a safety or a linebacker has to have, and a lot of coaches in the olden days used to call it avoiding the laundry, because when you get caught up in the laundry, that means the offensive blockers have an opportunity to engage you and prevent you from getting to the ball. Sometimes the best trait is a guy who simply gets around blocks and avoids the laundry so that he doesn't have to fight one off.
Yeah, my wife's going to cringe when I say this. I love doing the laundry. Let me get my mitts on those jerseys. Let me grab a hold of that 5 and that 4. All right, now looks like what we're working right here is linebackers jamming a tight end. All right, so 48 simulating the tight end. There's Demonte Downs trying to jam him. You want to disrupt him off of that route. This tight end, you don't jam him, he's going to be 3 to 4 yards down the field, and now the safety doesn't have time to come over and pick up the coverage. So as a linebacker, you're reading pass, the tight end's coming by you, you're jamming him, trying to disrupt his route, slow him down, which gives the safeties and the defensive backs time to get into their zone coverage.
Got to look at Kevin Schur, the inside linebackers coach, and there's the jam. David Mayo, number 55. Giants fans remember him. He was re-signed from last year's team.
35, I think that's TJ Brunson, right here, the linebacker.
Very athletic.
In these drills, if you're a younger guy, you're new to this technique, you want to study the guys in front of you. Watch how they're doing it. Watch their eyes. Watch their footwork. There you see.
And once again, Sean, much like offensive linemen, the idea here is when you get the jam, you want your hands on the inside. Because if they get on the outside, you're going to be risking a chance of a holding penalty.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Your hands get outside and you get any tug of a jersey, the flag's coming out. So here's another linebacker drill. This is Carter Coughlin right here, the rookie, number 49. This looks like you're on the backside of a play and you're squeezing down, reading cutoff. Maybe a pulling guard, maybe a fullback is coming up jamming, so jam and redirect. As you can see with the linebacker drills, it's all about change of direction. You're a big tennis player. I know you know what COD stands for.
A guy like Cam Brown, who's at 6'5" with tremendous length, we talked a lot about when he came out of Penn State that arm length can be a really good weapon for him. Offensive linemen and tight ends don't like to see linebackers with long arms.
No, it makes it hard to get a hold of that laundry, like you were talking about. If their arms are long, they keep you away. And to your point, Cam Brown, when he was coming out in the combine, he had the longest arms in the entire draft, 34 inches. That's an unbelievable wingspan. So, at 6'5", he's got that natural ability. So now the challenge for him is, how to use that to your advantage. For him being on the line, that's why you see him at Sam linebacker. With those long arms, he can lock out a tight end, keep a tackle away from him. And then also with those long arms, he's got great range. If you're an edge defender, you're not going to let anybody get outside of you with arms with that length.
All right, now we see another pass rush move here. Speak of the devil, that's number
Cam
47,
Brown right there.
Cam Brown. It's got to be hard for him to dip his hips, though, with the kind of height that he's bringing to the table. That dipping of the hips is a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah, the taller you are, the harder it is to get low. It's all about knee bend. And this is Lorenzo Carter. We're watching right here. So this is coming off the edge. This is working that dip. There's that dip. You see him get low? And on the first one, because they're not going very fast, you'll see they get lower on the first bag, and then as they increase the speed, they kind of start to rise up. But this is all about running the edge after the tackle. This is O'Shane Zimenez. And then, of course, to finish it off, you're going to see every time they hit that final bag, they're swiping their hand down That's for the forced fumble. You want the double negative. You get the sack and get the ball out, now you're getting the game ball. There's those long arms. You see that? Like a condor coming off the edge there, Cam Brown.
Jimenez and Carter in particular have had really good starts to this training camp over the first couple of weeks, both showing more assertiveness, confidence, and speed.
Yeah, there's Carter Coughlin right there. I mentioned him before. You know, he's an interesting guy coming out of Minnesota. His entire family was a Gopher. They all played ball there. So
no relation to Tom, by the way.
No relation to Tom, although I'm sure it wouldn't hurt him to say that he is somehow. If he got on Ancestry.com, there's a branch that's overlapping somewhere. But he was a stand-up defensive end in college. So when you look at him from a 3-4 defensive scheme, if you're playing Sam or Will, you're in a 2-point stance. So that's right in his wheelhouse.
Saw number 44 there trailing as the linebackers were coming away from that drill. And that would be Marcus Golden, who by many accounts, people are surprised the Giants were able to keep him. They put that tag on him. He was an unrestricted free agent, but they were able to throw the tag. And now he's back for another one-year deal. And after having double-digit sacks and 70-plus tackles last year, Sean, boy, I got to tell you something. I think this new coaching staff is really pleased that he's here.
Yeah, he's certainly a big addition to the defensive line room, linebacker room, whatever you want to call him. He's a hybrid, but he's got a special set of skills. And when he's healthy, he has showed that he can have great production. You know, 3 years ago, he had 12 sacks in Arizona, and then he got hurt, had the knee injury. So I know for him, he still feels like he's got a lot to prove. But having a veteran like that with a lot of these young guys like Jimenez and Lorenzo Carter, Carter Coughlin, and Cam Brown, they're learning, all right, how do we use our hands? That's what the key is right there.
Well, it's all about the veterans showing some of these young pups what it is that it takes to be an NFL player. And one common thread that we've heard from all the assistant coaches as we get a look now at the big boys along the defensive line is that you've got to have a motor. Every one of these assistant coaches is preaching, number one, we need to see effort all the time. And that's something that comes right down from the top with Joe Judge.
Yeah, effort can never be a question. And for these big defensive linemen, you're the heart of that defense. And you've got to have a great motor. You've got to have great get off. And you know what? Let's face it, Paul, you're doing a lot of the dirty work and not getting much of the credit. Because a lot of times your job is to tie up offensive linemen and make bodies and piles and let the linebackers clean it all up. But you know, this is about the trench warfare right here. This drill right here, again, just like the linebackers, want to stay low. And this is teaching you out of your stance, as we see Dalvin Tomlinson right here. Don't pop right up. You've got to stay low as you take this reach step right here.
And that's why they're a bit more under the screen than necessarily being at the edge. It's because that first half step, they have to remain low. Yeah,
you want to stay low. It's a game of leverage like we talked about for the linebackers. So stay low, keep your hands low, keep your pad level low so you can maintain that discipline. And then you'll also notice on that drill, Paul, there's no hut, there's no set go. Everything the defensive linemen do is simulated by the ball. So you see the coach with the stick with a football at the end of it, and every time he moves that ball, that's when you go. So it's teaching your reaction time. Here's Leonard Williams right here. Ball goes, now you move. Excuse me, that's McIntosh, R.J. McIntosh. But you'll never see a defensive drill go on a cadence or snap count. They're taught to not listen to anything. This is the same sled we saw the linebackers do. Now you see how tight your hands have to be. You basically have like a bar right there. That looks like your Thigh Master machine, Paul. You just grab a hold of that thing right there.
Well, the whole thing about especially interior linemen, but it also applies to the defensive ends, the whole thing about the ball is because, like you said, it's all about sight. Too many times a coach will be furious with a defensive lineman who jumps too early because he's like, well, weren't you looking at the ball?
Yeah. Did you see look at the shed right there? That was Leonard Williams. All right? He almost tipped the whole sled over. This is shock and shed. Boom, shock, shed. Watch the difference between different guys. You see hip power, arm strength. Look, that's great shock right there. That shed wasn't as violent. 91. But when you watch Leonard Williams go, when you watch Dexter Lawrence go, man, it is violent.
Austin Johnson was number 98. And, you know, the one thing that I would say about Coach Chaos, and that's Sean Spencer, who comes over from Penn State to coach these defensive linemen, he is about as fiery as a keg of dynamite. And if you can't get inspired and be lit up by this guy at practice, I don't know what it is that's going to get you going.
Yeah, I'll take the keg. You can keep the dynamite, but this is where it all starts, right here. We showed the get off with that other thing. Here's Dalvin Tomlinson. Look at that shed right there, right? When they have to adjust the sled, the next guy has to, you know you did a good job shedding. There's BJ Hill with a nice little swim move there. They're putting it all together right here. This has second nature. Dexter Lawrence right here. Look at the hands aside. Look at that. Look at that shock and shed. That's power right there. And that big boy can run too. All right, you saw him in the scrimmage making some plays, you know, tackling little running backs, catching the ball out of the backfield. That's force equals mass times acceleration. That's a big equation right there.
One of the things that Coach Chaos was talking about earlier today was trying to get Leonard Williams to finish more, to start getting more of those sacks instead of just getting pressures and hurries. He simply said, look, this guy works all the time from start to finish, and if we just keep it going with him, those plays will come. He feels confident that they can coach that up.
Well, I think one of the things that can help that is some better coverage. You know, if you're constantly getting to the quarterback and it's just 1 second too late, then one way to make that quarterback hit a sack is to have better coverage and force that quarterback to have to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. So that's all complementary football, and they can work well together as we now watch the real athletes out here on the field, Paul.
How did I guess we would eventually get to the offensive line with Sean O'Hara sitting right next to me? And the Giants have quite a battle going on at center between the veteran Spencer Pulley. We discussed it last week when you were on the program. We know that, Nick Gates is certainly getting an opportunity. And Tyler Highcraft out of Louisville, an undrafted rookie free agent, also getting an opportunity to do quite a bit of snaps during this training camp. Highcraft is interesting because he was a tackle like you were at Rutgers, trying to learn a different position. But I understand he has spent a great deal of time during the offseason trying to make that conversion. And maybe, just maybe, it seems like he may have moved a little bit ahead of Shane Lemieux in terms of getting those reps.
Yeah, and it looks like Shane Lemieux is getting a lot more reps at guard, but I've always felt like, playing center makes you a better guard. Now all of a sudden you realize the challenges that the guards have, and when you play guard and move to center, you understand exactly what the challenges that the center has. So it makes you a better offensive lineman to understand on each and every play which guard has a challenge, what are the toughest blocks, whether it's protection, whether it's run game. But for Nick Gates, talk about an unbelievable improvement. Last year he was a swing tackle. He started at right tackle, played left tackle a couple times, and was kind of the first man off the bench. And now he's morphed down in the center. He's taking reps with the ones, so that's great improvement for him. Obviously, if you're going to play center, you mentally have to be able to grasp the offense, grasp the protections. You have to be able to communicate with everybody next year, as you see him standing next to big Will Hernandez. For Nick Gates, look, you said he's a tackle. Ignore the fact that the jersey's up and you're seeing the belly. He's a big fella. So I think they like the way that he plays with power inside. I moved from left tackle in college into center in the pros, and I tell you, having that quickness, that athleticism that he has is really going to serve him well.
Well, if the fans were listening before when you were talking about the drills with the linebackers and the defensive linemen getting down in terms of making sure their body leverage was in good position, same thing happens with offensive linemen. Now, Gates is 6'6". How much of a problem do you think it is for him to consistently make sure his body's in the right spot?
It doesn't look like it's been an issue with him. And yeah, the 6'6" is tall for a center, but he's got great athleticism. He has really good knee bend. And I think that's been crucial part of his success so far. And, I think for him, the toughest part is when you're splitting reps with somebody. All right, every time I'm not out there with Will Hernandez and Kevin Zeitler, that's a missed opportunity for me to get better with my combo blocks, to work together, not stepping on each other's feet, getting hip to hip on a double team, and having that same mesh that you would have if you got every single rep. So we're seeing Mark Colombo right here. We're working combo blocks right now, and it looks like we're working a little inside zone play, maybe even a little draw. You see Nick Gates kind of sliding to his right here with Kevin Zeitler. Mark Colombo teaching him, hey, you punch the guy over to the guard. As you come up to center, chop your feet as you come up to the linebacker to the second level. You want to make sure that you don't get olayed. You don't want to lunge. You end up on the ground. Doesn't look good on film. There you see the hip-to-hip little gallop step that he used.
You know, Coach Colombo was so active during these drills. I'm glad he warms up before practice. Otherwise, he might pull something.
Yeah, he definitely needs a stretch. When you're that tall, he looks like a giraffe out there sometimes. But today, Paulie, the humidity is high. I think you should go with the crop top look. There you see Andrew Thomas, number 78, standing off to the side. Right now, they're clearly working the interior drill right now.
You mentioned arm length before, though, Sean, and Matt Pear, the right tackle out of UConn, and Andrew Thomas, the left tackle out of Georgia. The Giants got both of them in the selection process, and those two guys had the two longest sets of arms of all the offensive linemen at the Combine. And as much as we talked about how the linebackers like to use their arms, if you're an offensive lineman, that can really be a tool.
No doubt about it. When you have long arms like Andrew Thomas, you're seeing right there, I mean, that separation and that punch that you have in pass protection really helps you out. And in pass pro, when you're doing one-on-ones and it's 3rd and 9, the first meaningful touch, just like Bruce Lee talks about, usually wins. And so if you can touch, if you can stab that guy before he has a chance to get his bull rush and get his hands into you, now you've got an advantage and you've stunted him and his speed, forced him to kind of redirect. So those long arms are big, especially too when you're passing off a twist. If you got an inside slanter and you got long arms, now you can kind of launch him into your guard or center on the inside and then redirect on the way back.
From what you've seen, we had talked earlier when you'd said that coming off of your couple of lighter days at the first full padded practice could be a little bit ragged. Looks as though the drills will run very smoothly.
Yeah, the drills are never the issue. It's when you get into the offense versus defense, and you know, now one guy jumps off sides and then it just kind of snowballs from there. But you know, everybody kind of has to get back into it and get the energy up and get the adrenaline going, and sometimes those days are tough when you're running low. But I think that's, you know, once you get through the drills and you know you're getting your technique, all that down, once you realize, all right, now we're going, now we've got inside run or whatever the drill is, we're increasing the tempo. That's when being a pro, and that's what that term is all about. You've got to be able to crank that dial up. You know, there's times when you're going to go half speed or go 3/4, and there's times when you've got to go 100 miles an hour and still play safe and still take care of your teammates.
Now, last Friday when you were here with me, we saw the first scrimmage of training camp, and Coach Judge admitted to us after the fact that the defense had seen a lot of the offensive plays installed during the course of the week, so it was only natural to expect that the defense would have been ahead of the offense during that evening session. Obviously, we all saw it as well. The offense seemed to surge a little bit during the back end. But from what you saw, because we haven't talked to you since then, what did you think of the scrimmage?
Well, I thought that, you know, there's a number of things that jump out at you. I think defensively, the amount of turnovers that are being created in these scrimmages is great. It's great to see the interceptions. It's great to see defensive players punching the ball out. You know, in that scrimmage on Friday, you saw Golden Tate have a ball punched out of his hand in the end zone. Those are all great things, and that all comes from new habits and the coaching that goes on the field. You know, I think the other thing that jumps out at you when you start seeing these offensive plays is how much the tight ends are being used in this offense, and that's great. You know, Giants fans I know have cringed for years at how many times Jason Witten has caught touchdowns against their defense, and it's great to see them being used in this offense. And we're seeing a fun drill right here. This is a little linebacker pass rush drill. These linebackers have the running back in man coverage right here, and when they see them stay in the block, now they've got the green light to rush. So, oh, there we go. Okay, there's Devontae Downs. Now you know why he's getting some reps right there. He just gave him a little bit of sauce.
How does Sandro Platzkummer say, "I just got plastered" in Austrian?
Yeah, how do you say "ouch" in Austrian? That was interesting. Here's Saquon Barkley right here. Good job using the hands. You know, I think one of the toughest things to do as a running back is to meet a linebacker who's got a 5-yard head start and not get bull rush. So what they do is they hit you with the bull and then they swim you and they move around. There's Dion Lewis doing a nice job against Brunson. Nice job moving his feet. You know, you've got to use your hands. You can't get your face involved. This looks like Wayne Gallman. There you see him meet up the linebacker. He tried to meet him right in the hole.
Toa Efa, of course, made the team last year. Had a cup of coffee as an undrafted free agent rookie.
There's a swim move right there.
Javon Leak, a very interesting prospect out of Maryland, certainly put up some good numbers in terms of his rushes. But again, this kind of thing, he probably didn't do a lot when he was with the Terrapins.
Ooh, now there you see, there's David Mayo right there. Now he kind of came off the edge. So now we saw them with depth. Now they're coming off the edge. This is Blake Martinez right here against Saquon. This is a good little battle right here. All right, you know you're not going to overpower Saquon with those quads and with all that power. But that looked a little bit like a little brother-in-law going on there too with Blake and Saquon. But you saw David Mayo with really good shock and shed, really violent with his hands. That's what you want to see against those guys. There's a nice job by Dion Lewis sitting down on that spin move. That's not easy to do.
Well, with all the third down reps he took in New England, is it any wonder? Because you have to be able to pass protect if you're a running back on third down.
No, he's done a great job of it. And there we just saw Carter Coughlin with a little one-on-one rep, and you saw his hand. This is Cam Brown right here. Let's see how he uses those arms.
Edge rushers against the tight ends.
Period 6.
Nice job there.
So
end.
far, drills look a little bit spirited, maybe not quite as much as we have seen over the previous week, but guys showing some energy and getting things done.
Very physical. I mean, those drills right there are paramount. And what we're seeing right now is the practice is all leading up to putting all that stuff together. You saw the drills under the chutes, going against the sleds. All that transitions now into the one-on-one drills, the one-on-one pass rush as a linebacker versus running back, the one-on-one pass rush as an outside linebacker versus a tight end. And then you put it all together in the team periods. And that's how you grow as a team. That's how you grow as a player. Every single day, hone your craft, master it, improve on it every single day, and the entire team wins.
Sean O'Hara, great to see you again.
Thanks, Paul.
It's another fully padded practice tomorrow, and we invite you to join us again for another inside look at Giants training camp presented by Quest Diagnostics. For Sean O'Hara, I'm Paul Tatino. We'll see you next time.